everybody. Welcome to the Neil Adams Effective Fighting podcast. I'm your presenter, Nikki J. We have an auxiliary program here for you today. We ran out of time on our first podcast interviewing Neil Adams himself. Couldn't get the coaching tips in or the athlete training tips. Also, a couple of questions that had come through on the Facebook that were quite important. We really wanted to deliver to everyone out there. So please, sit back, pens poised, paper at the ready. Hopefully you'll get some more information out of this. I know you will. And if you have any other comments, please just come back to our Facebook page on Neil Adams Effective Fighting, or even drop us a line. Email us at info@naeffectivefighting.com. Canada. Yay! Thank you, Canada. This is from Wade Nellis from Grand Prairie, Alberta. I am a 100-plus judoka, and what he would like to know is what skills and techniques should larger competitors focus on, and what do you see as the primary difference between competitive judo in the lower weight classes versus the open weights? So it's really a two-part question. First one we'd like to know what are the skills and techniques that a larger competitor should focus on. When you had the academy, you had Big Rick, you had bigger competitors.
I'm just trying to think now. I mean, it differs from tachiwaza to newaza as to what you would do and the way you would do them. I think if you have a look at some of the techniques that are being operated by some of the heavyweights, and then some of the ones that have been operated by the lightweights. I mean, obviously there's certain things the lightweights can do with yoko, satemi, and drop down, techniques that go off to the side, and, that they can do it a little bit better and easier than the heavyweights. But some of the top throwers in heavyweights, I mean, you take Yamashita, for example, you take Inui, take some of the best ones that are there at the moment. They're doing classical uchimatas, osotos, taitoshis, haragoshis, and Cianegis, Angela Parisi, Siatoshi, left and right. So just because you're big,
gone are the Hanamakikomis then? No.
Well, that's the good thing. Hanamakikomi, some of them are doing. I think you tend to see them a bit more in heavyweights than lighter weights. But I think also you tend to see it from the Georgians that go over with the wrong arm, but they're still looking for big throws, and I think that's the important thing. As far as the newaza is concerned, and newaza kind of rolling juges and things like that, a lot more difficult to do with heavier weights. People that are 140 kilos plus, but then double lapel turns and different ways in to catch the arm. And in for the shimiwaza, there are different ways of operating. As far as the differences between the heavyweights and lightweights, with competition and stuff like that, then I think obviously pace is a big difference. The heavyweights tend to be a little slower with their gripping and their movements. But when I say their movements, I mean their actual movements around the mat. But I think the actual speed into the attack still the same. Something like Mr. Yamashita was extremely explosive, and his speed of attack was just the same. It's just that the gripping and the kumakata, and it was all that little bit.
It's not as frenzied.
Not as frenzied, yeah. I think you could say that. And so the pace was a little bit slower.
Fantastic. Okay, well, I think we'll go on to your coaching tip of the month.
Yeah, well, my coaching tip of the month is basically, first of all, I want to start off by saying that practice doesn't make perfect. And that's one of the things that, you hear it a lot. It's bandied around, that, oh yeah, we're going to do 1,000 uchikomi, we're going to do this, that, and the other, practice makes perfect. Actually, it doesn't. It makes permanent. And, I think that if we're talking about uchikomi, or we're talking about any kind of repetition practice where we're doing it over and over again, we've got to remember that if it's uchikomi and it's technically incorrect, if we're doing 100 uchikomi that are technically incorrect, then you've got a 100% chance of it not being correct. So it's important that it's looked at from a coaching perspective very, very carefully. If you're doing a lot of uchikomi, a lot of repetition practice, it's got to be managed. And I think that a lot of people that do uchikomi, and it's not technically correct, the position of the technique's not necessarily good, the kazuchi's not there, the balance isn't there, the shape of the technique isn't correct, the movement in, you're moving in from the wrong positions, and this is ingraining really bad technique and bad things into your technique. So I think my tip to you is that bear this in mind, that practice doesn't make perfect, it makes permanent, and that you need good coaching if you're going to do repetition work.
So perfect practice makes perfect.
Yeah, I mean, perfect, I can't do perfect all the time, but you can get
it's close to perfect.
As close to perfect, close to perfect practice as possible, and that means certainly with uchikomi, and I think it's important that you need, for me, with all of my full-time students, if I watch them doing uchikomi, I watch them from one end of the mat as they're coming towards me. I then watch them as they're going away from me. If I'm watching them on the move doing their uchikomi and their repetition and their nagakomi practice, I watch it very, very carefully. Some of the best throwers, some of the technically better players, are the ones that actually, revert to almost laziness with it because they can do it. So you still have to make sure that all the technical bits are put together and that they're using them to the benefit of the technique working properly.
So let's take this into the athletes training tip of the month. Then they're doing perfect practice. This is what they're thinking, perfect practice. What makes their drilling perfect?
I think, all the different things that are made up with that particular technique, and it might be, for example, if
they have to look for certain things every time they turn in.
I think if we're looking for standing uchikomi tachiwaza, then with the technique you're looking for a good shape to the technique. A lot of the time, and I use taiyatoshi as a prime example all the time because it's one of the hardest, most difficult techniques to do. And a nice shaped taiyatoshi, with the legs evenly balanced and weight proportionately on, either right or left leg, but not disproportionately on either leg, is normally it normally occurs because of the direction hand not working in the proper way. So there you get a situation where a gripping a direction hand and maybe the kazushi hand as well, not starting the technique off, pulling the whole technique out of line and the balance of the technique completely wrong.
So athletes should be looking at head positioning, their balance, where their arms and hands are, feet positioning, and just overall feel every time they turn in.
I think so, and I think from a tachiwaza, from an ewaza point of view as well, balance is a primary importance, to getting the balance right. And you normally know if you're off balance with it, so that's a good indicator. But somebody watching from the outside can normally, see a lot of things that you can't. So that's why it's important for coach analysis as well.
I think speed uchikomi has its place when you're training. However, it's not. People think there's a lot of coaches out there that go, right, okay, we're doing 15 uchikomis, everyone, and they try and it's almost like a relay. They want to get over as fast as they can.
I think one of the big problems with speed uchikomi and one of the misinterpretations of speed uchikomi is that a lot of people do it to time when the actual technique itself is not technically correct. Practice doesn't make perfect, so
and then you get muscle memory and everything.
Well, you get
like
muscle
that.
memory, and so you rush it. I see so many rushing it. Whereas, like the heavyweight example that I just used there, Mr. Yamashita, the great Yamashita, all right, had such an explosive speed into his technique, right? But it didn't mean that he was doing 60 of them in a minute. It meant that he was doing one, at his convenience or when the situation was right. But his actual speed into the technique was fantastic. So there are two different types of speed uchikomi. There are speed uchikomi to speed up the reflexes of the legs so that they move faster and the actual entry for the technique is faster. That's fine. But you've got to ensure that the actual technique itself is technically correct as well. And I think that that's an important point. So actually giving a 60-second block, and as many as you can do in 60 seconds, you know, you have a look at a lot of people that are not technically capable within, you know, with certain techniques. They're rushing the techniques, you know, 90% of the techniques they're doing are a waste of time anyway.
Not as in Russian, but rushing.
Rushing, yes, as in rushing.
Excellent. Well, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you, Neil, for joining us today, and we look forward to our monthly podcasts that are going to be now precedent on our on your new fanzine website.
Yeah, I mean, this is a great opportunity for people out there to, if they've got questions that they want answered, you know, send us your questions, and if you've got any queries, anything about training, about your technical training, your coaching.
On all levels.
On all levels, you know, feel free to come forward and ask your question, and we'll try and help as much as we possibly can.
Fantastic, thank you. Right, so in future podcasts, what we'd like to do is have a section here to promote upcoming tournaments and upcoming events. Doesn't have to be tournaments, could be gradings or special presentations, things like that. So please send them in to the Facebook page or to info@naeffectivefighting.com, and we'll do our best to get those on to promote upcoming events, as well as our own. I mean, we'll be doing boot camps and special coaching seminars, things like that. Also, another section, we'd like to encourage people to send in products that they would like Neil to assess and look over, and we can give comments on that, and any kind of advertisement that we can promote on all levels. Thank you very much, and we look forward to seeing you again on Talk Judo.